Hello everyone and welcome to day 43 of my 100-day project. I am working in oil pastel and today I thought I would try working on a piece of the Canson Velvet paper that I was using and really enjoying with the soft pastels recently. I thought I'd see how the oil pastels would work on them. I also brought up, so let me back up. I anticipated that on this paper they wouldn't move and blend as much as they did on some of the other surfaces because the soft pastel didn't, and I was right. So I brought, what you're seeing me use right now is a Colourshaper. It's a very firm one. These are really hard to find in the US. Colourshaper is a brand, I believe, the trademark, the name is a company based in the UK, I believe, and they're not easy to find. So usually I find them on Jackson's Art Supply, and they don't always have the sizes that I'm looking for. You want one that's extra firm. The softer ones that are easier to find here in the States just are too soft and they're not going to do what you need, especially on this type of paper where it was really interesting. When I started to blend with the Colourshaper, it just sort of sank into the paper, and it was like I would rub my hand on it and I couldn't even feel the pastel on there at all. It was really interesting, and I was really curious about how they would layer as a result. I decided to focus primarily on Caran d'Ache Neopastels. These are not as soft as the Sennelier, but they're softer than the Van Gogh, which is what I've been using, those three brands primarily. So I'm using mostly Neopastel, a couple of Van Goghs, and just a tiny bit of the Sennelier at the very, very end to put in some highlights and things like that. And I really didn't know where I wanted to go with this today. I ended up picking a limited color palette. That's usually one of the things that helps me when I don't know what to do. Yesterday I talked about kind of going to rainbow colors. Another strategy for me when I don't know what to do is I'll just pick a very limited color palette or do something monochromatic, which was sort of the idea here. Everything was going to be blues and pinks and purples. And then what that did is I didn't have to worry too much about, is it warm, is it cool, where the shadows, blah, blah, blah. You know, I could just build depth and value and not think too much about color. So that was my approach for today. And she starts out a bit scary. I thought, well, maybe I'll do some like circular motions to try and capture the form, but they weren't blending because of the paper. So I was like, oh, okay, that looks kind of odd. So I just kept going, kept layering, kept going, having faith that it's going to turn into something eventually. So it took me a little bit longer than I would normally spend, but I figured, you know, that's fine. If it takes me a little bit longer today, it takes me a little bit longer today. And I wasn't sure if I was going to give her hair or not. My daughter came out and she's like, are you going to give it hair? And I was like, I don't know. And I decided to give her some hair, kind of a retro sort of style. She kind of had a bit of a retro feel to me. I don't know. I think I've mentioned this before. Sometimes I wonder if I'm painting my ancestors. I get like this real retro feel from a lot of my people that I create. So who knows? But she had a bit of a retro feel. So I'm wanting her hair to be kind of neutral so that her colors pop. So I've layered in some grays that I used for the whites of her eyes, and some purple and some blue, so I'm trying to get it a little bit dark. I'm bringing in some black just to darken it. And then I thought, let me use kind of a pale neutrally yellow for the background. And that's really going to help the blues pop, as well as the purpley bits that are in there. And then just to harmonize it, I bring a little bit of that yellow into her face. I put way too much on her forehead. I try to blend that out, and I just end up making a hot mess of it up there. So her forehead is kind of a hot mess. And then her neck was weird. I needed to bring some attention down there. And so I thought, well, let me give her some clothes and let me use some yellow. Maybe I'll bring in some green as a contrast, just a little bit. So I start to layer in there. I'm not really liking anything. The muscles on her neck look weird. And so I'm like, okay, maybe it's a scarf. She's fancy, so she's wearing a little scarf. So I'm like, okay, well, that's what we're doing. So that's what that evolved into. And again, I really wanted the focus and attention to be up on her face and in her one eye where I put a little bit of green. And there's so many layers down on her clothing that they're really not layering very well. When I use the Colourshaper, they just sort of blend away. So I could have used my finger a little bit more, but I'm bringing in that really bright lime yellow green for her eye just to give it a little bit of contrast. And so I'm bringing a little bit of that into her shirt just to kind of tie it together. And there she is, my retro kind of lady. I'm feeling really good about noses lately. I've struggled with noses in the past, and I feel like I'm getting better. So a little bit of practice every day is certainly helping me with that. So that's some awesome progress that I will take. Hooray. So there we go. That's day 43. On to tomorrow, and I will see you in the next one. Take care of you. Thanks. Bye.